Welcome to The Naked Truth, episode 2. Today I'm going to talk about, I suppose, a bit more controversial topic. But let's say the title for today's episode is "What Value Do We Put on Life?" And I do excuse me for my glasses; they're a bit tilted. So, what value do we put on life? Something that is actually quite near to me and dear to me, because the fact I do a lot of Holocaust research and also a lot of historical research, and I see some elements in society returning slowly but surely, which kind of scares me a small bit, I suppose. One thing I was questioning at the start of this COVID outbreak. I heard that, and before I go any further, none of the things I'm saying here are meant judgmental. It's just an observation I have myself. I don't mean to judge anyone. It's just some questions that need to be asked, and maybe as a broader society, we might have to answer them at some stage. And they're probably going to be tough enough answers and tough enough questions to be asked. But anyhow, at the outset, at the start of this COVID outbreak, the COVID pandemic, Sweden was praised for its approach of trying to get a herd immunity done. Which raised a few questions with me because initially the numbers were very low, even though it was still business as usual in Sweden. Everywhere else around the world, people were dying left, right, and center. But in Sweden, the numbers were still quite low. And the question I asked myself then, once this whole COVID pandemic is over, I'd like to see the figures of issues like assisted suicide, euthanasia, and end-of-life care from Sweden, because I had my doubts at the time that the Swedish government was being very genuine on how they approached the whole COVID situation. So that's the question I asked. And funny enough, last week, BBC was broadcasting a panorama documentary. It was the BBC Panorama, and they were going all over the world talking about how COVID had affected several nations. And they got to talk to a Swedish person, a man who clearly, I didn't get the whole thing, but clearly he must have had some medical knowledge because of some questions he had asked. Now, what happened to him, his father had been brought into a hospital with COVID, and he was called by the hospital, son of the man was called by the hospital saying, "You better come now because your father, you probably won't make it. He's dying. So if you want to say your goodbyes, you better come now and say your last goodbyes, and whatever needs to be done, do it now." So he went in, and there he saw his father in bed, and he also noticed that he wasn't given any COVID treatment. What they were giving him was end-of-life treatment. So basically, they were pumping him full of morphine to make it a bit easier for him to pass away. And he questioned this with the hospital and with the doctor. So why is he getting morphine, and why is he getting end-of-life treatment? Why aren't you treating him with COVID medicines? And so because he questioned this, that they changed their approach and they actually did give him COVID treatments, like whatever medicines they had at the time. And the man survived. He survived COVID, and he is up and running now. He was in his 80s, but I think because of his age, and again, it's all speculative. This is just an anecdotal, but I found it striking that the one country I had questions about on their approach last year, and then when I heard this panorama report, it kind of copper-fasted my opinion that we weren't getting the full picture from some countries, for instance, like Sweden. And yeah, that kind of frightened me a small bit, because what value do you put on a life? When do you say, well, this is the age you are still a valuable member of society. After that, we don't really care anymore what happens to you. I mean, to me, that should be a no stage. At no age whatsoever, anyone deserves the same treatment. If you're 1 or if you're 101, you should get the same treatment. Life is invaluable. You can't put a value on life. So whatever can be done to help should be helped. No, I'm not saying that I'm totally against euthanasia, but again, that's an easy way out sometimes as well. And of course, when there's really a relevant case of when there's no hope whatsoever, and the patient is really only in pain, and there's no hope, no positive outlook, and the only thing he is looking forward to is having 2 minutes of no pain, for instance, or whatever. Even that, there's nothing to look forward to. Then maybe I think there might be a case. But I've heard of cases, for instance, in Belgium, where teenagers who were who had mental problems, who were depressed, they were given the options for euthanasia. I think, well, this is so wrong. That's just taking the easy way out. He's a bit of the person's a bit of a problem, a bit of an issue. Is going to state a bit of money, so get rid of them. That's how, to me, that's how it sounds like when someone who is in his young years has been given the option for euthanasia just because he's depressed. They didn't look at any treatment for mental health, just the nuclear option of euthanasia. And I think that really reeks of eugenics. We blamed, and rightfully so, the Nazis that they did this in the 1930s, 1940s, that anyone who didn't comply or to the Nazi standards of being a human being were killed, or if you had mental issues, they would do the euthanasia via the T4 program, the Tiergartenstraße 4 program, where anyone who was ill, and you didn't have to be that ill really. The slightest issue you had, you could be put on that program where basically where they would kill you. And to me, that really, things like that, like the example in Sweden and Belgium, it really sounds to me like a case of eugenics. No, I'm not saying they're the only 2 countries. I think this is done around the globe, even in my own native Netherlands. I know I've heard cases where really you get goosebumps. It's scary when you hear some of the issues that actually come out. No, still the numbers are tiny, less than the 0.1%. But where do you draw the line? That's always my question. At what stage, where do you draw the line? Where do you say, well, this is enough, we won't get any further than this? And that's very hard to determine. So I think that's a question we should ask ourselves as a broader society. And staying with our Scandinavian brethren, if you look at the likes of Denmark and also Iceland, where when it is discovered that a woman is pregnant with a baby who has Down syndrome, they are given the option to abort that baby, and more than 90% of fetuses or babies who have Down syndrome are aborted in both countries. And to me, that's, I don't know, I have no words for that, to be honest. I really don't. What do we say when you're not 100% perfect? You're not. Your life has no value. Is that what we're saying here? To me, that sort of sounds like. And again, that's a question we should be asking ourselves as a broader society. Do we really want to get rid of people who might become a burden at some stage? Take a look at the likes of, for instance, composer Beethoven. He was deaf. Imagine if in those years you would have said, well, listen, when you're deaf, when you're not really up to the scratch, when you're a burden to society, we should get rid of you. Imagine that if they would have said, like, in the 1700s, 1800s, deaf people have to be euthanized. They wouldn't have anyone like Beethoven. But there's countless of examples like that. And I forget the TV show now, but the character is called Gorky. He was an actor with Down syndrome, and he was a delightful person to see on screen as well. And that's, unfortunately, I do forget the TV show. I think that's something with life as life goes on. But I'm open for correction on that one. But I do remember the character was called Corky, and I was a delightful person, a character in the show as well. But according to some countries' standards, he would never had a chance to actually develop his acting careers. No. Again, that's the question I want to pose today. What value do we put on life? Do we get rid of anyone who becomes a burden to society? Is that really the route we want to go? I don't know. I wouldn't think so, because then we are doing exactly the same as others did before us. Others who we are appalled. We are appalled by the likes of even Stalin and Hitler, what they did in the past to their populations and other populations. We're appalled by them, but what we're doing, if we go down that route, we're not actually that much better. We're going the same route. And again, I don't want to sound judgmental here, because it's easy for me to say things like, well, I would never allow anyone to have an abortion if they knew they had a Down syndrome child. I was never put in that position, so it's easier for me to say the same as for anyone whose parents might be very old, in the hundreds or whatever, late 90s, and might be a burden financially or whatever. I've never been put in that position, but I really think no one should be put in that position. There should be supports for everyone to deal with eventualities like this. So I know it's a bit of a tough one, and especially for it's only the second episode. So, but I promise the next one will be slightly more lighthearted. We'll probably be talking about comedies and things like that, and how comedy can play a role in our life. So that was it for episode 2 of The Naked Truth. As before, this will also be broadcast on learmedia.tv. So please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, or my YouTube channel even. The YouTube channel is my name, Dirk de Klein, or learmedia.tv. We can do with support. We're trying to grow our station. And we want to be a slightly alternative voice to other media. No, I hate the term of mainstream media, because every bit of media serves a purpose. So, and just covering everyone with the same blanket name as mainstream media, even the likes of BBC, Sky News, which are or CNN, Fox News, which are reputable news media. I don't think we should just be calling them mainstream media as if it was something bad, because they have value to bring as well to any debate. So, but we want to be a slightly alternative option to those media outlets, because the people we have on board are people who live their own lives. They have all sorts of lives. They're not just reporters or people with high academic backgrounds. There could be simpletons like me, like myself, who just try to get by from day to day and want to share some of their experiences with the wider population. So please do subscribe to our channel at lideamedia.tv. It would be very appreciated. And please do share this. And also, if I can draw the attention to my website, History of Swords, or if you type in dirkdeklein.net, you'll get there as well. It's full of great stories, full of great bits of history, and mainly World War II and Holocaust, but there's also other stuff there on like music and other bits of history. So again, that's it for Dirk de Klein signing off for The Naked Truth episode 2. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.